and welcome to SquatchBot.com. I'm Darrin Smith, and I know it's been quite some time since I posted a video. However, last year hasn't been the greatest. Somebody very close to me was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma cancer, and as a result, my life priorities had changed dramatically. And as you may recall, I was having difficulty finding work after moving into my home in the Yosemite foothills. But I'm happy to report that I've started a new careering venture that unfortunately has been monopolizing a lot of my time. So I really haven't had the time to get into the woods and do any sort of research. However, now that fall is rapidly approaching and the tourist season is slowing down a bit, I'm hoping I'll have some more time to get into the woods and continue investigating. One thing that's ideal is the winter months are generally the Sasquatch are more active in the areas that I'm researching. It seems that the Bigfoots head up to the higher elevations in the summertime, and in the winter months they come down into the lower elevations in search of food. That's probably the reason there. So right now we are just outside of Shaver Lake, California, and we're heading into my top secret Bigfoot research area. This is the area that I had my sighting in, and it's also the area where I'm running my camera project. So we're heading into the area to retrieve the data from those cameras. I was hoping to touch base with the rangers before coming in, but unfortunately the ranger stations were closed when I got into the area, but I was able to touch base with a number of the locals, and although there aren't a lot of reports coming out of the Shaver Lake area, I did receive a number of reports from the locals down in Prather, California, and a lot of those reports were coming out of the North Fork area, which is exciting for me because that location is close to where I'm based. And as you recall, I was doing a lot of research in the Bass Lake area, and North Fork is in very close proximity to Bass Lake. Bass Lake was where I was investigating the numerous roadside crossings that were happening on Road 426. So I am interested in checking out the North Fork area, and I like the fact that that's kind of tying into that whole Bass Lake Road 426 area. So it'll be interesting to see if we can perhaps put together some sort of pattern, or at least find out why the Bigfoots are frequenting those areas in those particular times of year. So I'm anxious to get back into that area. So that's the plan today. I don't think we'll be able to get to the cameras today, but we'll venture in as far as we can get and then set up camp for the night, and then try to get in there tomorrow sometime to get those cameras. So that's the plan for today. And again, I apologize for kind of being missing in action there for a while. And I do encourage you to subscribe and set the notifications settings so that you'll know when I upload future videos if you're interested in the channel. I won't be set on a set schedule, so the videos will probably be pretty sporadic as I can find time to get into the field. But there's a lot of interesting stuff happening, and for sure the area that I've been investigating, I have been pretty impressed with this whole area. So hit that notification button if you're interested in being notified when I upload future videos, and I thank you for your support of this channel. I've been hiking for quite a while now, and I'm going to be setting up camp soon, but our destination is in this forested valley that you see behind me here. What I think is very strategic about this particular valley is I think the Sasquatch are using it when moving from the upper elevations in the summertime to the lower elevations in the winter time. And what's very strategic about this particular valley is it has a number of very narrow corridors or choke points for which the animals would be required to move through if they were wanting to gain access to these other areas on the mountain. And I think as researchers, it's very advantageous for us to seek out such corridors or choke points when conducting our surveillance or investigation, because for sure it would be very difficult for me to conduct a thorough search or investigation of this valley behind me. But by narrowing my search radius to those narrow choke points, I think I have a much better likelihood of success. So after setting up camp, I had a quick dinner and changed my clothes because it's getting quite chilly up here now that the sun is down. The elevation here is well over 8,000 feet, so it definitely gets chilly at nighttime, so I'm glad I brought the thermals. And what's nice about this camera is it's an older camera, but it has the night vision, so I can record at nighttime as well. But as you can see, it's quite dark out, and one of the questions I get a lot is, aren't you afraid to be going up into the woods at night and poking around, and especially when you're backpacking and in the backcountry alone? And to be honest, it is a little, it does get a little scary at times, but you get used to it. After doing it a number of times, you build up a self-confidence. I think the whole thing about being alone in the woods is the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's lurking in the woods around you, and that could be a little unsettling. But it's not likely that I'll encounter anything life-threatening out here. But I will say this, it's not safe to be tromping around the woods alone. It's always better to go with somebody, but sometimes it's hard to arrange scheduling to accommodate that. But I have taken bad steps, and on one occasion I almost fell off a precipice, and had I fallen, the fall probably wouldn't have killed me, but it's not likely that anybody would have come across me prior to me dying of exposure. It was in a really remote location and there was nobody back there. So that sort of thing is really dangerous. So it's always better to have somebody going with you. But unfortunately, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and head into the woods alone. And it can be relaxing. I was actually talking to a ranger on a previous trip up here, and he was telling me a woman who was in her mid-60s, I believe, did extended trips into the wilderness. She was a wildlife, not a wildlife, she was like a wild flower photographer. She primarily took photographs of flowers, wildflowers, and she would head into the backcountry for 2 weeks and even longer on occasion, and she was by herself, and she'd just go out there with her camera and take photographs, and he said she'd have been doing it for years. So it's not likely that you'll have mishap out here. I mean, it's much more likely that you'll get in a car accident on a major freeway as opposed to running into something dangerous out here in the woods. But the big concern that most people have is not the fear of the unknown, not knowing what's in their surroundings. So that could be a little unsettling. But tonight I have the FLIR, and I'll probably break out the FLIR a little later. I will say that the hike was strenuous. I'm rather tired, and of course it's the altitude. It doesn't help tromping around up in these higher elevations. So I am pretty tired, but I definitely want to spend some time investigating the area at nighttime with the FLIR to see what we can see. So we will do that probably here in maybe about an hour or two. All right, that's not ideal. One of my batteries for my Sony camcorder did not keep a charge. So I've already gone through the first battery and the second battery is dead. So unfortunately, I won't be able to use the Sony camera anymore this trip. So I'm gonna have to rely on doing the videos on my phone here. So I definitely apologize for that, and hopefully the sound quality will be all right. So right now I'm just taking refuge in the tent, getting the FLIR out, and I'm going to go out and try to get some night shots. You may hear in the background some thunder, so we might end up with a thunderstorm tonight, but hopefully not. And yeah, so I guess we just have to make do with what we have, and hopefully I can keep this phone charged. Now, this video is not being sponsored in any way. However, I do get a lot of messages from my viewers asking me specifically about the equipment that I'm using. So the FLIR that I'm using is the FLIR Scout 2 320. The unit has some really nice features, and it cost about $2,500, but it can detect heat signatures from up to 550 yards away. It has an array of detection palettes, including the black and white hot and the Instalert. It's equipped with the 2x e-zoom. It's lightweight, it's easy to use, and the battery can sustain operations for up to 5 hours. However, even at the hefty price tag, the Scout 2 320 does not have recording capabilities. So to get around this, I purchased an Angel Eye mini digital video recorder that I can plug into my FLIR unit and record the video footage. I think the setup works quite well, and to be honest, when I bought the FLIR, I really couldn't afford the higher-end models with the built-in recording capabilities, so I had to make a compromise, and I'm really quite happy with this setup. Now, although that the FLIR can give you amazing night vision, I still feel the footage can be a little difficult to interpret. In fact, the jury is still out on that footage that I obtained while out in the field along Road 426 near Bass Lake. As you recall, I was out in the field alone conducting night surveillance when a tree came crashing down in very close proximity to me. As I held my ground and continued FLIRing the area, I caught something really interesting on camera. When I compared the footage I obtained with the footage I had taken moments earlier, I discovered a very dramatic change in the foreground, and it appeared as if a large upright figure had moved from a location in the background to a partially obstructed position in the foreground. It looked as if this figure in question was peering out from behind a tree. Examining the footage closer, I noticed some very compelling physical characteristics that closely resembled proposed Sasquatch footage. Looking at the footage, I couldn't see any clearly defined neck. It did seem to have a large barreled chest, long arms, and examining the footage, it does appear that the arms were moving. It seemed to have a long, muscular legs with a low set knee and a big foot. Enlarging the head area again, intriguing physical similarities were noted. The appearance of a possible sagittal crest, a pronounced brow ridge, large eyes, and an elongated face with a low-set mouth. These physical characteristics, coupled with the behavioral characteristics noted, the knocking down trees and peering out from behind them, raised the enthusiasm that the footage may have actually been that of a Sasquatch. So I returned to the area where the FLIR footage was obtained the following day to do an investigation and a recreation. However, at the completion of this review, I had more questions than answers, and the pieces of the puzzle were just not adding up. You can see the analysis that I did on that video footage on a video that I had posted earlier. However, since then, numerous researchers and YouTube fans have contacted me with their support that this video footage was in fact a Sasquatch. And I must admit that although I don't understand it, the change of scenery was dramatic between shots. The behavioral and physical similarities are shocking. Could this have been a Sasquatch that had pushed down a tree to scare me out of the area and then approached me as I stood my ground? Frankly, I don't know. But I do know that the location the proposed creature was standing was in very close proximity to me. And if you believe that Sasquatch has unusual abilities, including being able to cause electrical interference, my fully charged FLIR was malfunctioning that evening as I was recording the footage in question, and I have never experienced such malfunctions before or following this experience. So I've gone around the perimeter of the camp a number of times, and I did a short hike with the FLIR, but didn't see any animal activity. But I don't know if you can hear it, but the wind has really picked up, and it's cold. And I just hope that that storm that I'm hearing off on the horizon isn't heading this way, because I still hear the thunder. I'm not seeing any lightning, but I'm definitely hearing the thunder. The one thing I can say is right now the sky is just ablaze with stars, so it's absolutely breathtaking. Other than that, it's dark, and without the FLIR, I can't see my hand in front of my face. So I will probably hunker down in the tent for a while and continue FLIRing from time to time. And also I have my audio recorders, so I'll keep them running in case we hear anything interesting besides the thunder. But that's what's going on for now. I'm just hoping that this phone holds out on us. Doesn't have a signal, but let's hope I can continue making videos on it. So I've gone out a few times with the FLIR and trekked about to see if I could catch any animal activity, but I haven't seen anything tonight. I did hear some what I sounded like coyotes off in the distance. Hopefully I got that on the audio recorders, and I will check those out when I get back to civilization. I did put the rain fly on the tent. Generally I like to leave it open canopy, but I'm a little worried with the threat of rain. I've got a lot of electronics in the tent that I don't want to get damaged, so I did go ahead and put the rain fly on. I usually like to keep it open canopy so I can see what's moving around in the camp. But I do have the FLIR close at hand. If I do hear anything tonight, I will be sure to grab it and see if I can catch whatever is making the sounds. But right now it's getting rather late, and I'm exhausted, so I'm going to call it a night. Okay, the second I turned out my lights to go to sleep, I heard some interesting noises outside the camp. So I got out of the tent as quickly as I could with the FLIR and checked the perimeter again. And I did trek a little ways away from camp there in the direction that the sound had come from, but I wasn't able to see anything. It has happened to me in the past that I had some interesting activities that I do believe were Sasquatch related. Shortly after turning off my lights in my tent to call it a night, the last occasion was up in Oregon, and it sounded like a very loud wood knock in close proximity to my camp. So this was a similar situation where the second I turned off the lights, I heard what sounded like something being thrown. It sounded like a rock that was bouncing off a tree. So I got out of the tent and used the FLIR to try to ascertain what the sound was, but I haven't come to any conclusions. The one thing that does come to mind is that the wind has really picked up now, and it could be one of the many dead trees in the forest here just making sound. That's probably the most likely explanation, but I just thought that the timing was unusual. The moment that I turned off the lights and suddenly I hear a dramatic sound coming from close proximity to the camp. So it was enough to get me out of the tent and FLIRing the area once again, but if it was Sasquatch related, I don't have any evidence of that. So, interesting sounds of the night. Let's hope that I'll be able to get some sleep out here alone in the woods. So I am going to give it another shot. I think this time perhaps I will keep the cameras rolling as I turn off the flashlight here and see if we can get any sort of reaction. It's pretty quiet. Okay, I am going to turn off this recorder and I will see you guys tomorrow. Well, good morning. I can't say that my sleep last night was completely restful. The wind remained pretty constant throughout the evening. However, on occasion, it would either shift in direction or increase significantly in its intensity, because there were times late at night that the tent would shake violently, and it almost sounded like something was trying to get into the tent. And so it definitely woke me up a few times and took me a bit to get back to sleep. So we're awake and we survived the night alone deep in the woods. And now I am gonna piece myself together and get this day started. Due to time constraints, this trip is pretty much a no-frills trip. I'm just getting in there and getting out. So I packed ultra light. I didn't even pack my cookware. So this morning, there's no coffee. However, I did bring a substitute. So I found some interesting tracks this morning just next to my tent here, and I don't recall seeing them last night, and it looks like they might actually be bear. So maybe it wasn't the wind that was waking me up last night. After tearing down my camp in the early morning, I started my trek towards the forest corridor where my cameras were positioned. I soon discovered, though, the trek was going to be a bit challenging. Unfortunately, the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which runs from Southern California to the Oregon border, is being infested by the destructive pine beetle, and as a result, tens of millions of trees are perishing, and the forests are an absolute debris field of dead and dying trees, which makes them difficult to traverse, and sadly, a volatile tinderbox, which is another reason I don't make campfires when venturing into the backcountry. Last summer, I was evacuated for over a week because of a nearby forest fire. It was, however, nice to see the lakes and rivers in the area had plenty of water. This last winter had heavy snowfall. Nearing my field cameras, however, I soon discovered a curiosity that has made quite an intriguing mystery. Since I started this camera project back in 2013, I have been discovering some very curious rock stacks appearing in very close proximity to my cameras. The rock stacks are consistently situated on both sides of my cameras, but just outside of the camera's view, so I can't see who's placing these rock stacks. On a number of occasions, I actually rearranged the camera's setup so they would be facing one another in an attempt to see who was placing the rock stacks. However, again, the rock stacks were strategically placed just outside of the camera's view. Although these cameras are set up in a very remote location, and there is no clear indication why somebody would be stacking rocks in this area, the most likely explanation for these rock stacks is human activity. However, there is a lot of credible evidence that supports that Sasquatch will stack rocks or make stick structures to mark territory or as a way of communicating to others of its kind. And a number of respected researchers I've spoken to believe the rock stacks I'm experiencing near my camera may indeed be Sasquatch activity, and the Sasquatch may be marking my cameras to warn others of its kind to steer clear of the cameras. And if that is indeed true, that the Sasquatch are recognizing these cameras as being a threat to them, that puts their intelligence into a whole new ballpark. Okay, here we are again. This is an interesting one. This is just one rock stacked on top of this other rock here. It wasn't here before because this is the location of one of the cameras, and you can see it in the background here. So it's very interesting that these rock stacks always seem to occur in close proximity to my cameras, both on the right side of the camera and on the left side of the camera, just out of the camera's view. So it's definitely an interesting mystery, and I'm going to be very curious to see what I have on camera here. So I'm going to go ahead and retrieve this camera and get moving. So you can see behind me here, there's another rock stack. It's that same configuration of three rocks, the two on the base and the one kind of straddled on the top there. This is on a tree fall. It's clear that there was a harsh winter in the corridor here because the snowpack must have been heavy. There's a bunch of fallen trees, which is making it difficult to traverse the corridor here. This was a frustrating anomaly I encountered while retrieving my cameras. On this particular configuration, I have the two cameras facing one another, again in an attempt to see who was placing the rock stacks near the cameras. And unfortunately, this very large tree fell in between the two cameras, which significantly restricted the animal movement through the area. However, the rock stacks were present on both sides of the two cameras used in this configuration. Again, the rock stacks appeared just outside of the camera's view. So I've retrieved the cameras, and right now I'm heading out of the corridor here. I'm bringing the cameras with me because I want to take a look at them to make sure that they're still functional. For sure, this area of the Sierra has had heavy snowfall, and it does look like the cameras did experience quite a bit of wear and tear. So they were probably buried for quite a duration during the winter months. Just on my property alone, I had over a foot of snow that remained on the property for over 4.5 weeks, and the neighbors were saying they hadn't seen snow like that since the mid-60s. So I'm going to bring the cameras in and check their functionality. And I'm kind of getting excited to get out of the corridor here because there's a bunch of flying, stinging insects. In fact, I got stung by something. It looked like a yellow jacket or one of those meat bees. And yeah, it hurts like hell, and it swelled up quite nicely. But I was pleased to see that the river still had water in it. So I was able to fill up my water bottles using my water purification system, and I was able to cool the bite or sting wound for a while, so the pain has subsided a bit, but I'm just a little worried that it's going to be giving me some trouble here on this hike out. So we're going to head out, and I'm anxious to get home and take a look at the footage. I don't know if I'll be getting home tonight, but we'll see how far we can get. So that's all for now. So I'm out of the backcountry, and currently I'm back in Shaver Lake. So I think I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat here. I'm gonna grab dinner and see if I can drum up some more reports, and then I'm gonna head home because I'm anxious to go see what's on those cameras. So I think right now it's time to have some dinner. Thank the maker. Well, I arrived pretty late in the evening, and I pretty much just jumped into the shower and dove into bed. But now it's time to review the photographic evidence that we obtained on the field cameras. And since this could be a very lengthy process and this video is already becoming an epic, I am going to bring this video to an end. However, I promise that I will be sharing the photographic discoveries that I make on my next video, which I hope to post within a week or so. I hope you enjoyed trekking in the woods with me. I really think there are some very interesting things happening in my areas of research. The rock stacks, for example, are an intriguing mystery. And I'm also excited about the numerous reports I've received coming out of the North Fork area. And I'm also anxious to get back into the field near Road 426, where I obtained that very compelling floor footage. I know the Sasquatch creatures are roaming our woods. The mountain of evidence we already have is way too extensive to dismiss, and the thousands of eyewitness accounts being reported cannot be all fabrications or misidentifications. I myself have seen one of these creatures, and since I have started investigating this phenomenon, I have had a number of very compelling encounters with what I believe were Sasquatch. My personal quest is an attempt to solidify my sighting encounter I had in the Sierra Nevada mountains by having another, and my goal is to gain knowledge as to what these creatures are. There are so many bizarre reports being submitted, and I myself have experienced very strange and bewildering, almost paranormal in nature, happenings while investigating this phenomenon, and I truly believe these creatures are very unique. I want to thank you for watching this video, and if you want me to continue sharing my experiences by posting YouTube videos, please leave some encouragement by pressing the like button. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and set the notification button so you'll be notified when I post future videos. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. These creatures are out there, and by working together, I think we have a much better likelihood of solving this mystery. I'm Darrin Smith, and I'll see you here next time on SquatchSpot.com.